Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Tariffs, India, pharmaceuticals, and more. President Trump addresses a wide range of issues during an interview today. Coming up, our live guest explains the impact of arrest warrants issued for Texas lawmakers and changes to the terms for DHS disaster funding. The countdown to the 2028 Olympics is on, and President Trump is stepping in. He's launching a White House task force to lock down security and speed up visa ahead of the LA Games. The Transportation Department is proposing new rules to speed up the deployment of drones. What Secretary Sean Duffy says about competing with China for control of the skies. A Beijing-linked entity is accused of influencing American energy policy to make the U.S. more dependent on China. An expert explains the tactics of this Chinese group. President Trump says lower energy prices could force Moscow into making peace. The details of Trump's remarks as Moscow is facing an upcoming deadline.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. India, tariffs, and pharmaceutical products. President Trump discussed a wide range of topics today, speaking on CNBC. Watch.
They make a fortune with pharmaceuticals, and they make our pharmaceuticals in China and Ireland and everything else. And within the next week or so, we're going to be announcing tariffs. We'll be putting a initially small tariff on pharmaceuticals, but in 1 year, 1.5 years maximum, it's going to go to 150%, and then it's going to go to 250%, because we want pharmaceuticals made in our country. With India, what people don't like to say about India, they're the highest tariff nation. They have the highest tariff of anybody. We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine, and if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
President Trump also addressed semiconductors and chips. Trump says new tariffs on the products could come by next week. The president remarks that he wants such items to be made in the United States. Semiconductors and microchips have become an integral part of nearly all sectors of the economy. On the issue of trade deal with China, Trump says it's getting close, adding that if an agreement is struck, he would meet Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping before the end of the year. He says if we don't make a deal, the meeting won't happen. China is now facing an August 12th deadline to reach a durable tariff agreement with the U.S. Trump also discusses new picks at the Federal Reserve. The president says he will soon announce his choice for an open seat on the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors and possibly his nominee for Fed chair. Listen.
Well, I love Scott, but he wants to stay where he is. I'll take him off because I asked him just last night, is this something you want? Nope, I want to stay where I am. He actually said, I want to work with you. It's such an honor. I said, that's very nice. I appreciate that. But no, Scott wants to do what he's doing. He's doing a great job, and he wants to do what he's doing. So I just take him off. He does not want it. He likes being Treasury Secretary. He's doing a really good job. We made the greatest trade deals in the history of our country.
The comments follow Fed Governor Adriana Krugler's unexpected announcement Friday that she was resigning. Trump is now considering replacing Jerome Powell with one of his appointees as the Fed chair. This as the White House continues to pressure the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. Probable candidates include National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett and former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh. Both have pushed for lower rates. Fed Governor Christopher Waller is another potential candidate. Trump was also asked whether he would ever run for president again during the interview. The president replied, probably not. President Trump appeared on the roof of the White House earlier today. Trump was touring the area above the press briefing room with the architect for the future White House ballroom. Reporters asked him what he was doing. Here's what he said.
What does that mean?
more ways to spend my money.
Can you give us another hint?
We'll show you. It's just another way to spend my money for the country. Anything I do is financed by me, so in other words, contributed. Just like my salary is contributed, but nobody ever mentions that.
Security for the 2028 Olympic Games takes center stage today. President Trump will sign an executive order creating a White House task force to handle security and other issues related to the Los Angeles Summer Olympics. The task force, according to Reuters, citing an administration official, includes members from Trump's cabinet and government agencies. It will coordinate federal, state, and local governments on transportation. It will also streamline visa processing and credentialing for international athletes, coaches, officials, and media. The United States will host the Olympics in Los Angeles in 3 years. The city also hosted the Olympics in 1932 and 1984. A judge is demanding more information on an immigration detention center dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. The judge has ordered officials to release documents showing which groups have legal authority over the facility in Florida. A judge from Florida's Southern District issued the order yesterday. He wants officials to disclose who has the authority to detain people or perform immigration officer duties. The order comes in response to a class action lawsuit filed by 4 detainees who allege constitutional violations. The plaintiffs complain about indefinite detention, canceled bond hearings, and more. The judge is now giving officials until Thursday to hand over the requested documents. Staying with illegal immigration, the African nation of Rwanda agrees to accept up to 250 deportees from the U.S. That's part of President Trump's expanding third country deportation program. The government of Rwanda confirmed the plan today without giving a timeline for the deportations. The U.S. already sent 13 criminal illegal immigrants to 2 other African nations, South Sudan and Eswatini. Authorities also deported hundreds of legal immigrants, illegal ones, to Latin America nations like Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Panama. President Trump is seeking more deals with African countries to accept deportees. He says those individuals entered the U.S. illegally and are, quote, the worst of the worst. Texas Democrats are facing arrest warrants after fleeing the state to avoid a vote on redrawing congressional maps. Democratic governors from other states now say they plan to redraw their maps in an attempt to give Democrats a better chance to compete for the congressional majority in the midterms. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is among the first vowing to take action. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the details.
All's fair in love and war. That's why I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible.
We're going to fight fire with fire, and we're going to do everything we can right now to stand up against this unconstitutional power grab by the Republicans.
California could take steps to also redraw their lines. Those state laws could make it more difficult for that state to do so. Illinois' governor also said that all options are on the table, though only 3 Republicans currently represent Illinois here in the halls of Congress. Now, what's at stake for Democrats with this new Texas map is a tighter race to win the majority come midterms. So this new Texas map would give Republicans a better competitive edge in districts that are currently Democrat strongholds in Texas. That's what led those Democratic lawmakers to flee the state in an attempt to block or at least stall a vote to confirm this new map. Now they're facing arrest warrants and possible felony charges.
Our fellow Texans are being let down and not getting the flood relief they need because these Democrats have absconded from the responsibility, and I believe they have forfeited their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do.
There is no basis to charge these House Texas Democrats who have refused righteously to, at the moment, vote on an extraordinary map that would hurt their constituents.
The governor also says that some of those state lawmakers may have violated bribery laws for soliciting or accepting funds in order to pay for some of those fines that they're now facing for fleeing the state. The governor has directed the Texas Rangers to investigate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Though the Democrats' absence delays the Texas House from approving the new congressional map, it is all but sure to pass once Democrats return. The Texas Democrats plan to stay out of state for at least 2 weeks. This morning, they spoke from Chicago. Here's a look.
Texas House Democrats are demonstrating what it means to fight for the preservation of our constitutional republic. Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, Texas Republicans, well, they know that they're headed toward a loss of the Congress in 2026. They're afraid.
Folks saying that we walked out. And I think everyone behind me will say, we're standing up. And as Texans would say, we're standing tall. There's others that are saying and warning us that they're going to arrest us or make us pay fines. I'll pay that price for America.
You already have the governor's office. You, the majority in the Senate, the majority in the House. What more do you want? What more do you want? You have the power.
Their comments come ahead of the 60-year anniversary of the Voting Rights Act being signed into law. The lawmakers argue minority voters are disenfranchised and that this new congressional map exacerbates the issue. Republicans have said the reason they're redrawing the map, the lines, is to comply with the Constitution. The DOJ in July warned the governor that 4 districts were unconstitutional coalition districts. Civil arrest warrants have been issued for Texas Democratic lawmakers who left the state in the middle of a congressional district fight. Tony Kinnett, national correspondent for Daily Signal and host of Tony Kinnett Cast radio show and podcast, joins us now to discuss. Tony, good to see you. So it's just me and you today. Mike is actually here, but he won't be joining this conversation. He'll be here in studio to talk to us about another topic. So yeah, how are you doing today?
I mean, I'm doing pretty well. It's sad to hear that Mike, Leon, that you guys get them all to yourselves later. I really look forward to the segment we get to talk about some of this policy fairly. So always good to be with you, though, Don.
Yeah, we'll see if we can have you come in studio and Mike too at the same time, and then we'll have a real conversation about a topic. So, but for today, the Texas House of Representatives voted to arrest lawmakers who weren't present yesterday. What does this mean for those lawmakers, and what are the impacts?
Well, first of all, this is not new. So gerrymandering is something that's over 200 years old in this country. State legislatures. This was originally one of the measures that the state legislature was given to check the House of Representatives. They are allowed to, in their state or Commonwealth constitutions, design the congressional maps for their district. Now, the Supreme Court does, in fact, have the ability to overrule those particular maps if, for example, like in Texas, some of those districts are drawn up via racial lines. Which is not allowed. That is a civil rights violation. You can't say, well, the black people live here, so they get their own district, or we're going to try to cordon off their votes. That's one of the things that Texas is, according to the representation in the legislature, trying to resolve. And again, you can make arguments as to whether or not that's political gerrymandering. It's a very old institution. So is the arrest warrants for legislators who, instead of just voting no on bills, running out of the state to break quorum. And not just from Republicans issuing warrants for Democrats. We saw this in Oregon in 2019 in reverse. We saw Republican lawmakers in Oregon state legislature flee to Idaho so that they didn't have to go into quorum on a state legislation for ending carbon emissions by 2050. And it didn't work. The Oregon State Police issued arrest warrants. And then when the legislators were brought back, they were asked to pay a small fine. And that's what's really being seen here. Now, the Texas Democrats did, many of them, accept a $35,000 private jet ride to Chicago, which is where Governor Abbott's Class 2 felony bribery charges are being investigated.
So, Tony, both sides of the issue are saying they have the moral high ground. I'm wondering, maybe both sides have a point to a certain degree.
I don't think that moral high ground and politics typically go hand in hand. It's just politics. I don't think it's nefarious, but state legislatures in power redistrict maps in order to benefit their party. It is a tale as old as time for every single state. And though Texas is on the screen right now and the map would be theoretically turning more Republican or more competitive for Republicans, the irony of Texas Democrats fleeing to Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in the country, who 2/3 of the state is split between 3 House districts. The southern 2/3 of the state is essentially a Croatia shaped letter C of a district around the stripe that goes up from the border of St. Louis up through Springfield to make a Democrat district. And then one congressional seat is allotted to a third of the state. Gerrymandering happens everywhere, so no side really has a moral high ground. And I do think it's interesting watching California, Illinois, and New York, who are already a little too gerrymandered, as the New York Times pointed out, to make it any worse, before the Supreme Court would step in and say, you actually can't make your state electoral map look like spaghetti to levy all of the districts in one fashion.
So how do you think this is going to play out? As we've seen earlier, some Democrats, it seems like, would rather be arrested than return.
I mean, some of them will end up having to return anyway, because it looks like the Texas Supreme Court might rule in Governor Abbott's favor that, yeah, I mean, if you don't show up for your job, then you are abdicating your role as legislator. If I served in the Indiana House, for example, and I left to spend a couple of weeks in Texas mid-session, then the Indiana governor does have the authority to essentially remove me from my seat, barring some kind of a medical condition or something like that that may have been made. The Indiana Speaker of the House, for example, could make an excuse for me. But according to the Indiana Constitution, I could be removed if I don't show up for work. And in Texas, the Constitution is a little bit more ambiguous on this front, which is why Abbott's going to the Supreme Court, which is why I think that these representatives eventually will return. They'll be like the Soviets.
Okay, seems like, Tony, we lost you. I don't know if you can still hear me, but if you can, I think we're just going to move on. Perhaps we'll try again at a later time, but let's take a break now. The Transportation Department is proposing new rules to speed up the deployment of drones. What Secretary Sean Duffy says about competing with China for control of the skies.
Focus on beauty, showcase nature, share kindness, feel brightness, capture the beautiful moments in your eyes. Your works will be showcased in galleries and on multiple online platforms, appreciated and collected. Please visit photo.ntdtv.com.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan green vegetable omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight.
Skylar, come here.
Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
We're welcoming back Tony Kinnett. He's the national correspondent for the Daily Signal and host of Tony Kinnett Cast radio show and podcast. So Tony, welcome back. Sorry for earlier. I don't know what happened. Apparently it's a tech issue, but glad you stayed on. So I don't know where you were talking or where you left off earlier. Perhaps you can just finish the last portion of that sentence or that response earlier.
To put a fine point on your question as to what the long-term consequences are, what's going to happen next, I predict they'll come back because if not, Governor Abbott will ask the Texas Supreme Court for authority to replace them. So they'll act as the Soviets, triumphantly retreating from Afghanistan, and we'll see this. Again, this group of Texas Democrats has actually done this before. Like the same crew, like Gene Wu has fled the state before. So I think that they'll just come back with their tails between their legs like they have previously.
How do you think the American people views this drama, if you will? Does it put more trust, or maybe that's not the right question, but how or less trust? How do Americans view this?
Well, I think that you used the right word, drama. I mean, I remember as a middle school science teacher, I'd have students bickering about the most silly of things, and this is one of them. The Texan state legislature does in fact have the majority for Republicans. You know, you can see Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett trying to claim on the national stage that Abbott is a terrible, mean, corrupt man who's ignoring the quote-unquote majority-minority state. But according to all of the polls in Texas, Republicans do have the support of the majority of not just, as maybe Jasmine Crockett would say, white Texans, but also Hispanic Texans as well. So if we're looking at the current situation in that state, it's ridiculous to suggest that people's rights are being violated. Americans likely just see this as political theater. And as for the hyping up about gerrymandering, again, it just takes looking at a couple of other states in the country to know that this is a tale as old as time.
Okay, and the Democrats are saying that they're doing this for their constituents. But if Americans view this as a drama, maybe perhaps they don't really think that their motive is what they actually say.
I mean, come on, Don. When's the last time that you heard your congressman say, I'm doing this for my constituents? And you got a warm place right behind that nice blue tie and thought, wow, he's talking about me. I don't care whether it's a Republican, Democrat, independent. Come on, politicians in Congress, there's a reason they are the least favored organization in the United States. And it's because everything in politics is performative theater. Too many times these days, people want my job, so they get elected to be on camera. Some of us actually have to do the media broadcasting and journalistic work to get people to watch what we do, not win an election in some forlorn district.
Well, maybe perhaps it's obvious to us, but I would imagine there's many Americans who are not so well versed in politics who, I don't know, perhaps believe that, right?
I have a lot of confidence in the American people over the last 10 years who really do believe that a lot of this is simply theater. I mean, don't get me wrong, congressmen and what they believe, very important. It is obviously a necessary thing. Benjamin Franklin said it's a republic if you can keep it. That necessitates people being involved in the process of electing state and federal legislators. But as to hanging on the words of everything being a live or die situation, which is something we've been talking about quite a bit recently on the show, I don't think we're in that era anymore where everything is gloom and doom, life or death. I think that Americans are coming out of that, and the kind of post-Vietnam age that became the post-Iraq and Afghanistan age in America has passed. And what we're seeing is a general optimism again, which means that if it bleeds, it leads kind of journalism, it's the end of the world style stuff, just doesn't terrify the public like it used to. And I think that's a very good thing.
Okay, Tony, there's another issue that I want to talk to you about, and that is the Department of Homeland Security is no longer explicitly denying relief for boycotts targeting Israel, but they've confirmed that it's going to still enforce the law, right, to move against moves to boycott or sanction Israel or Israeli firms. Why was this change to the document made?
So I think there was a little more clarification on what the federal law already states. So according to U.S. Code CFR 760, prohibits any kind of state actions on targeted boycotts. So, for example, here in the state of Indiana, where I'm out of, we can't say we're boycotting Japan. We can't take bribes from, say, some type of regime to act in our own interest of Hoosiers and at the spite of the federal government. No. We fought 2 wars. Actually, the reason the Articles of Confederation were thrown out in favor of the U.S. Constitution, one of many, was that states were negotiating their own foreign policy. That's a no-no. For those of you who enjoy the musical Hamilton, you get a very abbreviated version of why some things are centralized. So this is a very weird issue I'm seeing online. People are bickering about this. Oh, this is against Americans' interest if aid is withheld. No, it's already federal law. The state of Washington can't decide tomorrow to boycott Israel. It's illegal. No, you send senators, you send representatives to Congress, and they, with the executive branch, determine U.S. foreign policy. This isn't something that a single state or U.S. territory gets to determine. Now, why the DHS has changed certain language, I think maybe it was unnecessary and maybe causing a bit more PR drama than perhaps might be necessary. Like saying, well, not only is murder illegal, but also gun violence is illegal. Well, yeah, but that's a hat on a hat. It just seems perhaps a bit, what's the word I'm looking for here? Pedantic at that point.
Well, all right, Tony, I think we got to leave it there for today. Hopefully Mike will be back next week. Fingers crossed, but thank you so much.
Take care. I really appreciate you, Don.
All right. The Transportation Department is making a big move. Secretary Sean Duffy announced new rules for drone operations at a press conference today. Take a look.
So President Trump not long ago introduced an executive order to make sure that the cabinet put this issue on the forefront, to make sure that we lean in to our airspace when it relates to drone technology. And the problem we have is that on the consumer drone market, China controls 90% of this market. And the problem with that is we're turning over our skies to one of our main adversaries. Huge problem, and it's going to happen no longer.
The goal of the new rules is to speed up drone use beyond the visual line of sight of operators. Right now, operators need special waivers to fly drones out of sight. The new rules will remove that barrier. The change is key for commercial uses like package delivery. Officials say this will expand how drones are used. Industries like manufacturing, farming, energy, product transport, and even filmmaking and medical deliveries could benefit. The proposal also includes safety steps. Drone makers, operators, and traffic managers must keep drones safe, meaning to stay clear of other drones and planes. And also, Secretary Duffy could soon announce plans to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. He confirmed the plan at the press conference today. The directive speeds up NASA's timeline and pushes for a reactor launch by 2030. In it, Duffy, who also serves as the space agency's interim administrator, says lunar fission power is critical for building a future economy on the moon and eventually Mars. Duffy told Fox News that China and Russia are working together on a similar moon reactor and could block U.S. access with a keep-out zone. Duffy warns that speed is of the essence as the global race for lunar dominance heats up. NASA is also planning to quickly replace the aging International Space Station by awarding new contracts within 6 months. Lawmakers have left Washington for the annual August recess, but a few weeks of relative quiet on the U.S. Capitol grounds can't mask the partisan tensions that are brewing on government funding, and President Trump's nominees as well. NTD's Daniel Monahan has a look at what's ahead when lawmakers return following the Labor Day holiday.
Lawmakers will use much of September to work on spending bills for the coming budget year, which begins October 1st. They likely will need to pass a short-term spending measure to keep the government funded for a few weeks while they work on a longer-term measure that covers the full year. So far, the House has approved 2 of the 12 annual spending bills, mostly along party lines. The Senate has passed 3 on a strongly bipartisan basis. The House is pursuing non-defense spending cuts. The Senate is rejecting many of those cuts. One side will have to give, and any final bill will need some Democratic support to generate the 60 votes necessary to get a spending measure to the finish line. Meanwhile, Republicans are considering changes to Senate rules to get more of President Trump's nominees confirmed. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries have requested a meeting this week of the 4 major congressional leaders. The other leaders are House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Schumer and Jeffries wrote in a Monday letter that leaders of the House and Senate have the responsibility to govern for all Americans to prevent a shutdown. Senator Chuck Grassley announced Friday that he is blocking 3 nominations made by President Trump to positions in the Department of the Treasury. Blocking a nomination is a courtesy afforded to any senator that allows them to temporarily stop all consideration of the nominee, but it may be overridden by a majority of senators on a motion to proceed. The senator placed the holds over wind and solar tax credits repealed by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And 3 pro-Jewish groups are throwing their support behind President Trump's nominee to lead the office of special counsel and urge the Senate to advance his confirmation. Paul Ingrassia is an attorney and former podcast host. His nomination has faced scrutiny from opponents over alleged ties to individuals with anti-Semitic beliefs, which Ingrassia has vigorously denied. The Israeli Heritage Foundation, Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, and Zionist Organization of America have stepped forward to back Ingrassia for the role, saying they view him as an ally. The Office of Special Counsel is an independent federal agency with broad prosecutorial and investigative powers to probe fraud, waste, and abuse in the executive branch. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, a Beijing-linked entity is accused of influencing American energy policy to make the U.S. more dependent on China. An expert explains the tactics of this Chinese group. Coming up.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges. Oh my goodness.
So Ariel, we made this yearbook for you. Has notes from all the people that are here. Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
That first time seeing my son, I feel like my life did a 180. I was already trying to change my perspective of life and really just be a father figure that I never had. Being present is the most important part. I'm still growing every day. Becoming a better version of myself. To be the better mirror for my son. I mean, he's just growing. He's becoming his own person. Man, at first I saw him dance, bro, he brings the vibes, you know what I'm saying? He brings the party no matter what. He really a definition of like why he loves somebody. And I love him to the death of me.
Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Ooh.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
We first met Todd, he was singing a song, and I was like, wow, look at this kid with the biggest smile.
Todd's a joy.
Yes.
Todd really is a great joy.
And you.
Learn about adopting a teen at
The Kansas Attorney General is asking the DOJ to investigate Energy Foundation China. Joining us now to discuss this is Michael Lucci, founder and CEO of State Armor. So first of all, good afternoon, Michael. Thank you for joining us today. I understand you previously applauded the Kansas AG for calling for an investigation. So to start off, what is Energy Foundation China, or EFC, and what does it do that has sparked this probe?
Energy Foundation China is a nonprofit that is supposedly based in San Francisco, but what we know is it's actually run out of Beijing with top officials tied to the Chinese Communist Party. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to enact Beijing's foreign policy, which is to make the United States dependent on China for energy resources, green technology that's actually red technology, full of kill switches that they can use to turn off our energy grid. They advocate for litigation, policy changes, state statutory changes in the United States. They even facilitated a trip from California Governor Gavin Newsom to go visit leader Xi Jinping. So it's obviously clear that this is a Chinese influence operation to make us dependent on their supply chains for energy technologies, fertilizers, and other critical inputs that they could then just turn off to cause a crisis in the United States.
Wow. I have two questions. Who funds this group then? And then what does it do specifically to influence U.S. climate policy?
So the great irony of this is that it's an entity run and controlled by Beijing. Unfortunately, it's funded by American philanthropists. So you have massive funds that put in nearly $100 million per year into EFC. These are American dollars being put into a nonprofit that then Beijing directs where they go and how they're used. They pursue litigation strategies. I'll give you one example. There's a German fertilizer company, Bayer. It's one of the few remaining fertilizer companies that's not controlled by China. So what does China want to do? Drive them out of business in the United States so that we are solely dependent on Chinese state-owned enterprises and military-tied companies for fertilizer for our farmlands. That's one of the things that they do. They try to increase mandates for green energy supplies that are really, when they're coming from Beijing, it's red energy. And what I mean by that is it's coming with kill switches. And we know this from reporting in the United States, reporting in Europe, that solar inverters, that these power cells and batteries that are going into our grid have backdoor kill switches that let Beijing turn off the lights.
Okay, well, we'll get deeper into that point later, but I also want to know, is Energy Foundation China operating outside of legal bounds, or is it finding gaps in legal loopholes to operate in?
I would argue that they are operating outside the bounds of the Foreign Agent Registration Act. So we have a Foreign Agent Registration Act. It says if you're operating on behalf of a foreign government, particularly in this case, a hostile government like China, you should be registering with the Department of Justice, making disclosures about what you're doing, why, when, where, how, and with whom, and who's funding it all, or where the money's all going. That has not happened. They have not registered as a foreign agent, even though, in my opinion, they're very much operating as a foreign agent of Beijing. So that's one way that they are operating outside of what law that I think could be enforced upon them. But generally speaking, this is one of the ways that China exploits our open system. Is they create nonprofits, they facilitate, they control nonprofits in the United States. EFC is not the only one. So they find these cracks and seams in our system, and they use these tools to register a vote in our democracy on behalf of communist China. And so we have to crack down. We have to be clear about where the money's coming from, who's controlling the entity, and if it's a foreign agent, it needs to register and disclose as such.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier red tech and kill switches, right? So paint us a picture in the real world. If the U.S. is dependent on these technologies from China, what could happen in a real world scenario?
Well, let's talk about what our federal leaders, from the previous FBI director, Chris Wray, to the current Kash Patel, and all across the board of national security have talked about China wanting to do, which is install malware on our critical infrastructure so that they could shut it down. They're talking about water infrastructure, telecommunications, airports, electric grid, all these sorts of things. So that would be a remote cyber attack. If we're letting them put the hardware and software into our grid, we're just making it all that much easier for them to launch an attack against the United States. And again, Federal leaders are saying China is preparing to do this right now. They've been preparing and pre-positioning for years to be able to attack us in the event that they launch a war. They want the ability to turn off critical infrastructure here so that we fall into chaos, we fall into a panic. It's utterly foolish for us to facilitate that by putting their technologies, which are riddled with backdoors, into our own systems. They should all be ripped out like we're ripping out Huawei. We should be ripping out all of their red tech from our energy grid. They will use it against us. Like today, they are using our dependence on rare earth elements against us to crush our defense companies and other high-tech industries.
Okay, on that note, how dependent is the U.S. right now, currently, on China on energy-related products or tech?
On energy-related products, we are, say, less dependent than the Europeans, but we are quite dependent. When you look at the states that have adopted these green mandates, like California, they have tons of these Chinese solar inverters, Chinese batteries spread throughout their grid. We're just now finding out where they are and the kill switches that are involved in them. So we are dependent enough that it's a national security crisis. We should be ripping this stuff out. Now, if you look across the pond at the Europeans, I mean, there are European researchers from the Czech Republic specifically who've written research saying China holds a kill switch to the entire European energy grid. They could shut it all down because Europe was more rapidly adopting some of these foolish energy policies. So we are dependent, but not as bad as the Europeans. We still rely a lot on natural gas, nuclear, and other tools like this.
What measures can we do that can be put up to prevent this from keep happening?
So one, Chinese technology shouldn't go anywhere in the United States, particularly anywhere in critical infrastructure. So whether or not they're going to run an influence operation, we should be banning at the state level and the federal level any Chinese technologies going into our critical infrastructure. Furthermore, there needs to be a crackdown on Energy Foundation China, like General Kobach is asking for. DOJ needs to peel back the layers of who's really behind this. We know that it's Beijing behind this, what all they're doing, where they're sending money, and really imposing registration as a foreign agent on EFC and then anyone who's getting money from them as well. We need to really tighten up law enforcement on Chinese influence operations within the United States and push back on their lawfare, which is designed to bankrupt our fertilizers, our energy producers, and our American independence.
Okay, just one last question, Michael. Is there any way to get around China's dominance on rare earths?
Yes, we can just produce it ourselves. But to do that, we need to have the Department of Defense and federal agencies guaranteeing purchase of those rare earth elements. Otherwise, China will just set the price close to zero so that we don't have producers of our own. That's what they've been doing over decades. They identified rare earths as something that they want to control decades ago. They've knocked all of our competitors out of business. They've knocked the Europeans out of business. We need to just separate from that market and not let them undercut price here, because they do sell below the cost of production just to make sure we don't have productive capacity so that they could do what they're doing right now, which is turn off a lot of our military suppliers, turn off a lot of our technology suppliers by turning off the flow of rare earth elements.
Okay, Michael, this is a very important topic. Thank you for shedding a light on it. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
Switzerland's president and business minister are on their way to Washington. Their visit comes as the European nation attempts to avoid a 39% tariff. The Swiss government said Monday it was ready to make what it called a more attractive offer to the U.S. President Trump's 39% tariff is due to take effect on August 7th. Swiss officials gave no details on the potential offers to secure a better deal. The Swiss government said it was not considering any retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. President Trump is threatening new tariffs on India over its continued purchases of Russian oil. This comes amid recent EU measures aimed at restricting Russia's exports. NTD international correspondent David Vivez has the details.
In a post on social media, President Trump accused India of profiting from the war in Ukraine by reselling Russian oil on the open market. He warned that tariffs on Indian goods would be substantially raised unless India halts the practice, which Trump says undermines Western sanctions on Moscow. Geopolitics expert Alexandre Delval says the resale of Russian oil began at the same time as the start of the war in Ukraine.
India plays this role. There are several countries, such as Azerbaijan and India, that act as transfer hubs for Russian exports. They resell Russian oil, as well as refined and transformed products, often rebranding them in the process.
EU officials have warned since 2023 of the situation, with calls to act against it. Only in June 2025 did the EU ban all oil products originating from Russia, and it also adopted new sanctions targeting the Russian ghost fleet used for oil exports.
Between 2023 and 2024, imports of Russian gas by ship increased systematically, reaching a peak at the end of 2024, when it regained its leading position, surpassing both Norwegian gas and American shale gas. While the EU imposed sanctions, Russia quickly found new buyers. The bloc only recently banned direct oil and gas imports, because it had little choice but to keep buying some Russian gas.
Del Val says the U.S. administration's latest move will help address the ongoing circumvention of sanctions on Russian oil. Despite Trump's threats, Indian officials insist that oil imports from Russia will continue. According to trade data, India remains the largest buyer of Russian seaborne crude, with nearly 1.75 million barrels per day purchased in the first half of this year. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
President Trump speaks with Ukraine's Zelensky today as Russia is facing an upcoming Friday deadline. Trump says low energy prices could force Moscow to make peace. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the Russia update.
If energy goes down low enough, Putin's going to stop killing people. That'll be nice, even though they're his own people that are dying.
President Trump tells CNBC on Tuesday that lower energy prices could force Russia into making peace with Ukraine. According to the president, Russia is financing its war with the profit it makes from selling oil and gas. In the past, Trump repeatedly called on OPEC to lower the price of oil. On Tuesday, Trump warned he'd increase tariffs on India, which is partly because India keeps buying Russian oil. The Kremlin commented on Trump's move on Tuesday.
Now, we hear many statements that are in fact threats, attempts to force countries to cut trade relations with Russia. We do not consider such statements to be legal.
Trump set a Friday deadline for Moscow to make peace with Kiev. Otherwise, the U.S. will increase economic pressure. And also on Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he had a phone call with President Trump. Zelensky says, "We spoke about sanctions against Russia. Their economy continues to decline. That's exactly why Moscow is so sensitive to this prospect." Meanwhile, Russia keeps strengthening ties with malign nations. Chinese and Russian navies completed a 3-day joint military drill. Beijing is one of Moscow's closest allies. And a North Korean delegation of prosecutors is on its way to visit Russia. That's according to North Korean state media on Tuesday. The outlet didn't elaborate on the purpose or schedule of the visit. North Korea has been directly supporting Russia in its war against Ukraine. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Taiwanese authorities have arrested 3 people for allegedly stealing technology trade secrets. Prosecutors say the suspects targeted Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, is the world's largest chip producer. They were detained after the chipmaker reported the results of an internal investigation. The prosecutor's office said the company's in-house probe showed that former and current employees had illegally obtained proprietary information. The 3 individuals taken into custody are also suspected of violating Taiwan's national security law. Police in Brazil Monday seized more than 200 pounds of gold from a pickup truck. Brazilian authorities said the bust marked the largest seizure ever in federal highway police history. According to police, more than 100 solid gold bars valued at more than $11 million were potentially destined for Venezuela or Guyana. A 30-year-old male driver was traveling with his wife and a baby when officers discovered the gold during a traffic stop. Agents identified inconsistencies in the cargo documents, which were not in the driver's name. An initial search uncovered a small amount of gold. After a more thorough inspection, more than 100 gold bars hidden in the vehicle's dashboard were found. Coming up, a Florida police officer records a different kind of apprehension after taking a suspect back to his patrol car and buckling it up. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-6422, 800-210-6422.
So at the age of 5, I was sexually molested. I had my first child at the age of 15 and became homeless at the age of 16. The scariest part about not having a place to live was having a child and not having a place to live and not knowing where our meal was going to come from and where we're going to sleep. To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them. 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference, Covenant House.
Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis.
It was pretty tough, but Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life. They gave me the love that I needed. They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding.
Your $19 monthly gift is urgently needed to reach other young people who are facing unimaginable situations. Call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Your support makes the work of Covenant House possible. Thank you for caring.
Police in Tennessee have arrested a suspect wanted for the murders of the parents, grandmother, and uncle of an infant. His arrest followed a warning to residents to shelter in place after he was spotted. Authorities say Austin Robert Drummond is in custody on first-degree murder charges. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has already charged 2 other suspects with accessory after the fact. Investigators allege both Tanaka Brown and Giovante Thomas assisted Drummond after the murders. Details of the killings remain unclear. Authorities say the baby was safe and is being cared for after being discovered outside and alone late last month. The U.S. Coast Guard has released a report on the 2023 implosion of the Titan submersible. The Coast Guard's Marine Board of Investigation revealed that the vessel's inadequate design was a main factor in the disaster. Other factors cited in the Coast Guard report included a toxic workplace culture, inadequate regulations for submersible operations, and an ineffective whistleblower process. The board also found that OceanGate didn't examine or address known hull anomalies following its 2022 Titanic expedition. Investigators also determined the company failed to properly store the Titan before its 2023 expedition. All 5 people aboard the vessel died on their way to see the Titanic shipwreck. OceanGate's CEO, Stockton Rush, was among the people killed in the implosion. A checkpoint at Atlanta's International Airport was temporarily closed yesterday after brown water started falling from the ceiling. This video, captured by a passenger at the airport, shows the water breaking through ceiling tiles before pouring onto the ground. The area has since been contained. An airport spokesperson says crews are working to clean and sanitize the space. The cause of the ceiling leak is still under investigation. Airport officials say the incident did not impact any overall airport operations or flights. No one will even notice, but today, August 5th, is predicted to be slightly less than 24 hours by more than 1 millisecond. Shorter days have occurred a few times this year already. Scientists say the reason is that Earth is spinning faster, likely due to changes in the Earth's core and atmospheric influences. The shortest day of this year so far was July 10th. The shortest day ever was July 5th of last year by 1.66 milliseconds. The discrepancies through marginal could eventually affect computers, satellites, and telecommunications that rely on precise timekeeping. Now, it's not often the words "aw" and "alligator" are included in the same sentence, but there is an exception for this guy. A Florida deputy rescued this alligator from a backyard pool in St. Augustine. While it put up a bit of a fight initially, hissing and trying to break free, the deputy was able to place it in the back seat of his patrol car. And safety first, of course, it was buckled in the back seat.
Oh. I got you. You're fine. I know. You're Superman.
There's not a lot of tape.
You go. Wow. Obviously, you grew up here.
Yeah. Well, I'll load them up in the back of my car. Okay. And I'll take them to a pond that doesn't have any residential. So, thank you very much.
I know. You're mad. I know. I know. You're so angry. You know what? Look up you.
The deputy relocated the reptile to a nearby pond away from residents. Okay, coming up, President Trump is going to create a White House task force to prepare for the LA Olympics in 2028. How will the LA 28 Summer Olympics be different? Find out more after the break.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, 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 and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Get Labor Day deals and save on everything for your home. They have hundreds of sofas and sectionals with styles you love at unbeatable prices, and they're the only place with top name recliners starting at just $199.